What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the live show. John Forrester has already made it in. He's made predictions and everything else. So that everything's right in the world, Joe.
Yeah, John's always with us. I appreciate John.
Yeah.
And he's probably right.
You think people are going to make a lot of money on Ryan Priest?
No.
Oh, okay. Then John's wrong. Welcome to Stuck in the Catch Fence. Hope you guys had a wonderful 4th of July. And more importantly, hopefully you have all 10 digits on the upper extremities.
Yeah, I made it out.
Yeah, well, you and JPP. Rough day for Jason Pierre-Paul. Anniversary that he liked to forget.
Yeah.
You think he gets like discount on gloves? Or does he just mittens when he plays?
I don't know. I would say that there is somebody out there giving him a discount on some sort of gloves.
3-finger discount.
Yeah. I would say. I did learn how to do this. Ready? Oh.
That's pretty good. I've never learned how to do that. And that sadistic stuff will send you straight to hell. That's what my mom used to tell me. that finger removal is for the devil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
it is.
Joe, we had some news this week. First off, we had Mr. Carson Hocevar, the 21-year-old kid that I guess on social media you're not allowed to say anything bad about.
How dare you, by the way.
He was fined $50,000 and also lost 25 points. And in the grand scheme of life, that's not a whole lot, but really it might end up swaying whether or not him or Josh Berry ends up getting Rookie of the Year. If you're just now watching this, you can watch a video that I made a couple days ago when it comes to Carson Hocevar, but he intentionally wrecked Harrison Burton underneath the caution. Not just intentionally wrecked, he right rear hooked him. I was very critical of Carson. I like Carson. I know you like Carson, but what was your overall thoughts on NASCAR's penalty? Was it fair? Was it too much? And was my overall criticism of Carson being a dirty driver valid or not?
No, I am a fan of Carson Hocevar. You like Carson Hocevar too. That's and what Ryan's talking about is Ryan made a great video, I thought. And we had one of our subscribers, and I think he's still with us, but he had a disagreement with how Ryan presented the case for Carson being
a very emotional disagreement.
Yeah. How Ryan presented Carson being a dirty driver. I didn't really agree with him. I will say this. I will say that we saw last year in the Truck Series, over the past couple of years, we saw Carson Hocevar lose his temper and become emotional on the track. We've seen it many times. And I believe that you presented good physical evidence of that, video evidence of in physical evidence. He got him naked, did a body exam, everything. But I believe that you presented good video evidence of Carson Hocevar losing his temper a multitude of times on the track. And I know one of the key disagreements was you kind of pushed the idea that he got right hooked, but it was slow and under caution. Well, I think people forget that under caution is still at 70 miles an hour. And when you and I would challenge anybody to go run into a guardrail on the interstate at 70 miles an hour. And I know those cars are a little bit safer than what we're driving every day on the expressway, but at the end of the day, you could still get hurt, and it still is a safety issue. You brought up the point that is not the first time that has happened with him. And, not only does it, and you missed one point that in your video that I was kind of like, and it puts another group of people in jeopardy. When you have people acting that way, it not only puts Carson Hocevar in jeopardy, it puts the driver that he is retaliating against in jeopardy. It puts other cars in jeopardy. And really, I think a lot of people have been, a lot of people forget about this, but there have been many, many race fans killed at speedways because of parts of vehicles flying up into the stands. And I know our speedways and racetracks have gotten really good at protecting fans, but it also puts the fans in jeopardy when you're sending cars straight into the wall, and there's fans there. So I thought that NASCAR, as much as we talk about they don't get it right, and there's kind of a double standard there with some drivers. I think what they did, you wreck anybody under caution on purpose, and yeah, was there a checkup there? There was, but that was obviously intentional. There's not any dispute in that. That was obviously intentional, and I thought it was to not be too long-winded, I thought it was a very just penalty for Carson Hocevar.
And I think too, Joe, what people often forget is the concussions that happened to Dale Jr. and the concussions that happened to Kurt Busch. If we were to watch those again, you would say those are very minor hits, and they never got back in a car after that.
Right.
So, and you're sending somebody into traffic, and you're on the backstretch. They were low on the track. You send somebody up, and not only does it ruin possibly Harrison Burton's day, but how many bystanders have to get hit because of your temper tantrum?
Right.
How many cars have to get ruined because you want to have a pissing match with somebody? And again, like just the previous week, he spun himself out because he had a flat tire, and you're not allowed to intentionally wreck yourself, but he does at times. And there's just things, there's a lot of things about Carson that remind me about Kyle Busch. He's got a temper on the track, but off the track, he seems like a really nice guy. Maybe he's closer to Joey Logano. And to kind of go with some of the thought process of these, some of the people that I hear on social media that call out Denny Hamlin and things like that, racing somebody hard and being a winner is totally different than being dirty. Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson race each other hard. Unfortunately for Kyle Larson, he's got the bad end of the deal. In my emotional state, I flipped the freak out on Kyle Larson. I've been put through a lot this year with Kyle Busch because what Kyle Larson did had no chance to be successful. What Tyler Reddick did had no chance to be successful when he did that at Darlington. Those are moves that make me question, what are you thinking? But they're not dirty. There's one thing in mind: to win. Is it stupid? Yeah. Is what Denny Hamlin's done to Kyle Larson at times stupid? Yeah. Is what Joey Logano's done stupid? Yeah. But that's not dirty. Right hooking somebody's dirty. Intentionally spinning out so you get your own caution with no repercussions, that's dirty. Those are Busch League moves. As much as you may not like Joey Logano blocking, it's well within the sport. It's not a penalty to do it. Is it something that pisses me off? Yeah. Did it piss Tyler Reddick off? Yeah. But that's not dirty. It's frustrating, but it's not dirty. What Chase Elliott did to Denny Hamlin, that's dirty. You could get somebody hurt. What Bubba Wallace did and then tried to fight Kyle Larson, completely dirty. Getting upset with Alex Bowman and throwing water in his face after he's about to die from dehydration, that's dirty. All this other stuff, you guys need to differentiate what's hard racing, what's questionable moves. The only one that I could argue with you, Joe, that maybe was dirty and has changed his ways a lot was Ross Chastain. But I also think Ross Chastain had a mindset that he doesn't belong, and he just raced way too hard. And we've seen a difference in him as well.
Oh, a definite difference in attitude. And I will say, Ross Chastain has kind of reaped what he sowed. I mean, he obviously got put out of the race this week, and everybody, he knew he got put out of the race for something that wasn't his fault. And how many other drivers are going to sit there and bash Larson or whoever for that move that put them out of the race? But Ross Chastain has learned that he has been the cause of many, many incidents like that. And he takes it and he moves on and just says, hey, I wish we could have finished better. And you know what? The more Ross Chastain, I got to a point where I was hating Ross Chastain, but the more that he acts like that, the more that he's growing on me now. So, and that's one of those deals. Like, this week really, really sucked for Kyle Busch. I'm
Just
not
this week.
What?
Just this week.
This week more than any, because Kyle Busch had a legitimate chance to win that race, I felt.
Yeah.
And I think he ran well. Got a gnat. I think
his pick crew made a really good decision on tires and stuff.
And I think that he was in a position to finish really well and possibly win. And what happened to him absolutely sucked after a struggling season. I mean, he gets a win this week. that doesn't necessarily turn around the season, but it puts them in a lot better spot than what they're in, and that sucked for him. And the same way with Ross Chastain, it sucked for him this week too. So it's one of those deals where even Kyle Busch, so many times in that situation, he's going to say something, he's going to have an opinion. And to be honest with you, just the dejection in his body language after they tried to talk to him coming out of the infield care center was just like, you could tell he's so over it, he can't even stand it.
Yeah.
So, and nothing can go his way.
Do want to give a shout out to Aola. It says, "Hey, fantastic streamer. Love your stream, but at work right now. Please add me on the Discord so you can get our schedule. Our schedule is based upon what our offspring have going on in life. So we'll do everything that we can." John Forrester said, "Joey sucks and he never came up after he called Harvick dirty, and I back him up until he retired." You did? Well, you back up every Stewart-Haas racer. But John also moves us on to our next subject. I'm wondering if Rodney is following Josh Berry to the 21. That was also news this week too, Joe, that Josh Berry will be taking his talents to the Wood Brothers and driving the number 21 car. So bad week. Get right hooked and spun out if you're Harrison Burton and then lose a ride. But a lot of this people knew was coming. Chase Briscoe was rumored to be in that car. He turned that ride down. Josh Berry was the next person up, and he will now fill in the 21 car. So now that we've seen Josh Berry, Joe, for about a whole year, halfway filling in for Chase Elliott and then halfway through his traditional rookie season, what are your expectations for the 21 car with Josh Berry now in it?
Middle of the pack.
What would be successful? What would be successful?
I mean, successful year for them is to make the playoffs, I think.
Okay. Is that realistic?
I don't know. We'll have to see. I don't feel that the Wood Brothers ride is going to be any more consistent than SHR this year. I don't know that that's an upgrade. I don't know that it's a downgrade either, if that makes sense. So can I
ask you a question real quick?
Go ahead.
Matt DiBenedetto had that car 19th and 13th, made the playoffs one year and then had it 19th outside the playoffs. If you were betting on somebody right now, would you take the talents of Matt DiBenedetto in the 21 car before Harrison Burton got there, or would you take Josh Berry?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that Josh Berry has proven yet that he is going to be a better driver than old DB. So that's hard to say. He's too new. I mean, if you look back to Kyle Larson's rookie year, I mean, I think everybody saw talent there. I think you see talent in Josh Berry, and I think you see potential, but there is also a huge learning curve. There's also progression in the sport, and I think it's way too early in his career to call that. And I think if you are going to compete for championships and be one of those drivers, I don't think you're going to do it with Wood Brothers, obviously. But I don't think it's obviously an upgrade for Wood Brothers. The 21 car is going to be an upgrade for them, and I don't foresee that they can't win a race, and I don't foresee that they can't make the playoffs. And I think that is a successful year. I also think, though, with that progression, I don't know what kind of contract that has been signed, how many years, but I also think Josh Berry is successful with Wood Brothers. We don't see him at Wood Brothers very long.
Yeah, I think it's a good move for both. I think Josh Berry, I mean, he's, just 3 or 4 years ago, he's racing late models. Dale Jr. gives him an opportunity to ride, for JR Motorsports, fills in for Chase Elliott. Now he's 30 years old and he has a chance to win Rookie of the Year. He's kind of got a little bit of a Greg Biffle into him, but didn't have nearly the success that Greg Biffle did at the lower series. But, when I look at this compared to what he's at now, I don't think it's a downgrade. I look at what Wood Brothers did with Ryan Blaney, and that was finished ninth. I don't think that they'll finish ninth, but if they finish 15th, that's a hell of a year. If they finish 16th, I feel like that's good because right now they're in the 30s. And, they got Harrison Burton, who's been in the league for 3 years now. He's 23 years old. And, Joe, to your credit, he's just got the right last name but doesn't have the right pedigree. Right. To me, Josh Berry, I think, has proven, that he can be a consistent driver. He doesn't tear stuff up. That's a good thing. And, I think he's got a skill set on short tracks because he's got that late model experience that he could surprise people and come out with a win. I don't think it's a downgrade. To answer John's question, Rodney Childers right now is not projected because the Wood Brothers said it's up to Penske to fill in their crew chief. So that's questionable whether or not, Rodney comes. If Rodney did come, I'd feel a lot better about it. I don't think that he's going to make it, but I'm glad for Josh Berry to land in a decent ride. And I think overall, Joe, I think this fits best for both parties. I think you got a driver that's skilled enough to compete on a certain amount of tracks. And I also think that the Wood Brothers, look at it and say, we're not going to be tearing up nearly as much equipment. And we're definitely going to finally get out of the 30s of owner points. And I think that would, be right. A really, really good thing that they haven't had for almost half a decade.
Yeah. No, I agree. I can't agree. I can't dispute what you're saying at all. So I think, I think we'll just have to see. I don't know if Harrison Burton, I don't know where he lands. I definitely think that, there may be a truck ride in his future. There may be an Xfinity ride, but, he for sure is not ready to be in the top series of NASCAR, and I think that has been well proven.
Yeah, and he's 23 years old. I mean,
right.
He can completely turn his career around. But at the same time, you're talking about a guy that drove for Kyle Busch Motorsports and couldn't get a win.
Mm-hmm.
So, and right now, Joe, if you're a Ford driver, like what's the process to come up? Like, it's not good. Like, the competition level with Ford on the lower series is really rough right now.
Right. No, yeah, they're not. I just don't know. I mean, where do you go? And I mean, I'm kind of at the point though where I don't want to close any of these guys into a box and say that they got to be a Ford guy. There's opportunity outside of Ford, and to be honest with you, if it's me right now, I know we've seen Ford have a little bit of success this year, obviously, but if I'm a younger guy and I'm a younger driver, I'm trying to get as far away from Ford as possible.
Right. Yeah, they've had success on the Cup side, but the development, they've lost Zane Smith. They just lost Chase Briscoe. They're losing the younger guys, but Cole Custer's probably going to fill in at Haas Factory Race Team. There's just not a lot of avenues for you to have success. They're talking about Riley Herbst, possibly going to Cup next year, and this guy's won one race.
Right.
So I guess the biggest thing is to have funding if you're a Ford driver. So, now we want to move on to the Chicago race coming up this weekend. Last year, we would have been shitting on this nonstop. A lot of us did not believe that this was going to be a good race. And then a guy that we never heard of in our entire lives. At least I didn't. I remember on qualifying, he qualified in the top 5, practiced in the top 5. I'm like, who the hell is Shane Van Gin's Cheeseburger? What is this guy? What's going on? Now that we've seen him for a year, Joe, my question to you, and it is on the thumbnail, does SVG legitimately have a chance to go back-to-back this week?
I think if it rains, I think for sure.
There's a chance. It's a small chance, but it's a chance.
So I think what we saw last year, and make no mistake, that was pure dominance out of him last year on that track. Absolutely. He was a man playing with children last year on that track. And you have to realize where he comes from, which that's what they do. That's what those supercars do. Rain, shine, snow. Well, snow obviously is not really a a big factor, but
not prevalent in Australia too much.
Yeah, or New Zealand or anywhere, but um, he has learned to drive a stock car in the elements, and that's exactly what he's done. And he clearly knew what he was doing last year, and nobody else did, and that was quite obvious. Um, so, but we've also seen him on road courses this year, just completely dominate in the Xfinity Series, run well in the Cup Series. So, I mean, he's one of those AJ Allmendinger. He's one of those Robbie Gordon,
Marcus Ambrose.
Marcus Ambrose type drivers that and I don't know, and he hasn't done. I mean, he hasn't done terrible on ovals this year in the Xfinity Series. I don't think. I think he's learning how to drive them, and I think that he is going to be a Cup competitor sooner than later. But he is one of those guys that if you go to a road course and you mention his name in any vehicle, whether that's the Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, or the Cup Series, he's an automatic favorite. And because he is that good, and I'm telling you right now, the dude's a superstar. He's gonna be a superstar. He is a superstar, and it's a very good possibility he wins again at Chicago.
If he wins this weekend, should he have a Cup ride next year?
Yes.
Okay.
I agree. And he should have a Cup ride. So I'm trying to think how many or what stages the road courses are in the playoffs. Is there any in the first 4 races?
Watkins Glen, I think, is in the first round, and then I think in the next round is the Roval.
Okay.
But next year it would just be the Roval.
Okay. So here's anytime, they go to 4 road courses, right? And a street course. Do I have that down?
Sonoma, Coda, Watkins Glen, and the Roval would be the 4, and then the street course.
Yeah. Okay. So
the street course isn't confirmed for next year, but there's a strong possibility.
So with those 5 races, I mean, you pick out any random mid-tier driver right now and say, is there 5 places that they can win this year? And your answer would be probably not. You got Daytona and Talladega, where anybody can win, and outside of that, probably not. I mean, when you talk about SVG, any of those 5 places he goes, he is a favorite and will be a favorite to win. So, absolutely, I think he should be in a Cup ride just because his ability to drive road and street courses.
Yeah, and I think too, when you look at this week, because a lot of people will say, well, it rained, it was the first time they ran a street course. Well, it did rain, and SVG's ran street courses. None of these other guys have run street courses. With the V8 supercar in Australia, they drive street courses a lot. And there was just something that we saw, Joe, when he passed Justin Haley, late in that race. Nobody made that pass. Nobody was able to make a pass like that. And that comes from experience. And, I think a lot of people are willing to throw out like, well, this happened and this happened. Well, we haven't run any street races since. So, he still has more experience than anybody else running it. If it does rain, to your point, it just adds to it. I think it gives him that much more of a handicap to be better than everybody else. And, I just see exactly what you're saying. Like, if you're going to choose any driver, like Chase Briscoe, what 5 races is he going to have a chance to win? I don't know.
Right.
If I'm going to choose Daniel Suarez, I don't know. I don't know confidently. Confidently with SVG, like you said, on those 5 street courses, he's in my top 3. He's automatically in my top 3.
Right. Because
what he's showed at the lower series, and a very different car than what we have with the current gen car. And I cannot overemphasize this enough. He never drove a NASCAR next gen car ever and won a race. Like, there should be a 30 for 30 on that. That it's not easy to just jump in a car you've never drove before and say, yeah, I'm just going to win this against the best drivers in the world. Did he have an edge? Sure. But does that edge get mitigated, Joe, when other guys have been driving this thing for 2 years and he's never drove it?
Well,
where does that come up? When it comes to having an edge.
I mean, when you talk about the drivers that are in that race with Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson,
Tyler Reddick,
Allmendinger, Allmendinger competed in the street course last year, didn't he? Yeah.
Yep.
And when you talk about what is considered the other quality road course drivers in NASCAR, I mean, they're no slouches. I mean, they're going anywhere and compete with anybody in the world in equipment that you put them in. I mean, I don't think Jimmy Johnson was ever I don't think road courses were ever at the top of his game. To be quite honest with you, but you take a NASCAR driver, put him in an Indy car, and he doesn't do well, but he competes. I mean, these are the best drivers in the world, and for SVG to come over here in the rain and get into a car that he probably exactly had 7 or 8 laps in before, because that was a rain shortened weekend to begin with. I mean,
yeah, it was a hurricane. It's literally rain they've never had in years.
So I would assume last year, and I know, and that's exactly why we need a 30 for 30 on it, because a lot of us just don't know and we're too lazy to look it up. But I would say that SVG, the majority of his experience for that race came from jumping in a simulator for a couple hours before he ran that race. So,
yep.
Which, that's, I mean, and I know that simulators are about as good as you can get, but it's still not the real thing. So, what he did last year was pretty impressive. I think he has to be your favorite for this weekend. He's my favorite for this weekend. Yeah, so do I. Very terribly, but so do I.
That's Eric, right?
Yeah, that's Eric. I think he's got to be your favorite. I hope he doesn't win. I hope Kyle Larson wins, but I think at the end of the day, SVG is probably going to be going for round 2 in Chicago.
And on that note, we will break down Chicago and many of the other favorites next. This must be like a woman who just decided to do what it wants whenever it feels like. So
yeah, I understand that.
We're moving on to
that's what I said.
We're moving on to Chicago. The Echo Park, I believe it's 165, something we never get to mutter for a NASCAR Cup Series race. The expectations for myself, I honestly think it won't be as entertaining. I think it still will be entertaining from a standpoint that we're going to see mistakes, because you just simply put these guys on something that they're not used to, and they're going to have mistakes. Mistakes equals better driving. Will we see 5 overtimes? Probably not. If you add rain, Joe, anytime during the race, we will have an entertaining race. That's just all there is to it. Mother Nature has proven that if you add something that involves wet pavement, it turns a boring race. New Hampshire, Nashville is not that entertaining until after it rained. That we will have an entertaining race. I think, like you said, SVG's the favorite, but after that, I think it's really kind of a crapshoot, and my picks are kind of a crapshoot. I just feel like what you can bank on a typical road course is kind of there, but at the same time, we're talking about situations to where there's actually going to be possibilities to pass more, and we questioned that last year, Joe. Like, how are they going to pass? We watched the Xfinity race and shit, they got 5 lanes on some of these straightaways and things like that. So, I think we're going to see a little bit difference, but what are your expectations going into Sunday at 5?
Well, I think I'm sort of on the same page with you, and I don't think our expectations were great last year, and then the rain came and it made for a quality race, just like you said. I will say one thing that I think NASCAR should implement is, for now on, they should take a fan vote at stage 2 and ask the fans if this is a quality race, and if not, every track needs a sprinkler system. You wet that track down, you put on some rain tires, and you go at it. I mean, let's do it. So
you got to spit on that thing.
Yeah, and I think that in all seriousness, I think my expectations for Chicago is, and I hate to say it, what I thought it was going to be last year without the rain. In as much credit or what I just said about SVG about if it rains, he's automatically the favorite. He'll probably run away with it. I would say that SVG very well may run away from it, even worse if it doesn't rain. And the reason why I say that is because what the rain did last year, we saw a lot of screw ups with the rain. But one thing the rain did is it took that aggressiveness down a whole bunch of notches. Why SVG was like, I know what I'm doing. I could drive in this shit.
Yep.
So very possibly, unless he gets caught up by somebody else's stupidity, which is very likely, he may be even more aggressive on that track because he knows what he's doing and be able to full send it and just run away with that thing. Yeah. So
I think that's great analysis.
That is a very possible that could happen, and I wouldn't be upset with that. So I think if it doesn't rain, I think it could be a very boring race from P2 all the way back. And I think we'll be able to watch SVG just go absolutely nuts.
Yeah, qualifying will be exciting tomorrow because I think that it kind of is like a Formula One race. Sometimes qualifying is more entertaining than the race to see where people are going to stack up. If passing is hard, Joe, then qualifying where people stand, do people screw up? I think that's going to give us the barometer. How much have they learned this track? How much have they technically mastered the track? And if we see screw ups during qualifying, then I think that's going to give us a kind of a preview what we see on Sunday. If we see everybody just, a tenth of a lap next to each other, then I think you're right. I think it's going to be a boring race. But last year I was saying that this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And I had to eat crow because afterwards I was like, shit, that was crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, that was nuts.
It was, I think every one of us last year was after this race was like, holy God, what did we just witness? Because it was entertaining. It was exciting. And I hope we get that this year. I'll actually be up in the area. So we'll see how traffic is. I'm not heading over to Chicago, but I will be able to see it.
Gotcha.
The skyline of Chicago from where I'm at.
Yeah, and that's usually a safe distance unless they just start shooting in the air.
It is, yeah. If what I do is a little bit of physics calculations, and geometry and angle, and velocity of the bullet, and if I'm outside the range where the bullet reaches full arc and can come back down and hit me, that's a safe different distance from Chicago. You got to triangulate your position though, because you have Chicago and Gary, and you got to be kind of in a safe distance from both of them. So that's kind of where I have decided to put myself and my family for this weekend.
Okay, so you're in Terre Haute. Got it. Yeah, that's
close.
Yeah,
Michigan City.
Terre. Gotcha. So let's go ahead and look, Joe. Somebody's creeping up here. I mean,
oh hell,
yeah. Look at here.
Could I possibly go back to back to back?
You want to know what I did last week, Joe? You want to guess how many points I got?
What?
A donut.
Yeah, I know. You hit 66. I wanted you to say it though.
Yeah. Now, what I could have before the first overtime was really, really good. And then the longer that just went on, and my FanDuel, it just kept going down too.
I forgot to do my FanDuel last week.
Yes, you did. I didn't want to bring that up. But let's go ahead and bring up the guy that is at an engagement party. So whatever that means.
That's a thing now. That's a thing.
Yeah.
So as we were talking, I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, and if anybody's watching and you're over, I don't know, 12 or 13 years old, please answer this question. When did engagement parties become a thing? Like, I thought the engagement party was the wedding reception. That's when you celebrated an engagement. Like, nobody gives a shit you're engaged. I can tell you that right now. You know what they give a shit about? The wedding reception and the free beer.
Open bar.
When did we start having parties to celebrate an engagement And then my question to all of you guys, when Travis informed us that he couldn't go do the show tonight because of an engagement party, my question was, are you still obligated to go to the wedding and the reception if you went to said engagement party?
Right.
Because to me, you've already celebrated that union.
Yeah. Or I don't know what you're celebrating. Are you celebrating that she said yes? Is it just a female thing? Because like the guy bears all the responsibility of the stress. He could get denied. He could, there's a ton of things that could happen.
Right.
But at the same time, like, is there just a bunch of dudes that are just hanging around being like, hey, knocked it out of the park, bro. I actually went on my left knee. You did it right. You went on your right knee. When I'm looking at it from that standpoint, I thought you did great. Maybe it's two guys getting engaged. I have no idea. That makes more sense of an engagement party. If I'm being completely honest, those sound like the people that would like to celebrate. And hey, you do you. I don't know. I'm not Gen Z. I don't understand it either.
I just don't understand it. And then it brought up a whole bunch of other things about dudes going to baby showers now.
Yeah, you got
baby
fired
reveal. I mean, it was just a whole balloon effect. But at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you this right now, Travis Bott. Engagement parties are a totally fabricated, made-up thing that never existed before. And whatever the hell you're doing right now is complete bullshit.
Joe, I just had a light bulb go above my head.
Yeah.
What if he's being conned into going this from his significant other that's not engaged to give him a hint?
I thought you did that at the wedding. That was the whole point of like, hey, I want to marry that guy over there. Make sure he catches the thing. You know what I mean?
Oh,
gotcha. That's the whole point of that. Like, we're breaking this up into pieces. This is a one deal thing. Wedding reception, divorce in 5 years. Why do you, why the hell do we have to make this a multiple occasion thing?
That's true. Do you have a party after you get divorced? Like after you both walk out of the courthouse?
I guarantee another 10 years. It's like, hey, bro, I can't make the show tonight. My buddy's having a divorce party.
I wouldn't doubt it. Do you have a child custody party?
Yeah.
Like if you get full custody? I don't know.
Right.
We're messed up.
I don't know. Here's the golden rules.
Are messed up.
Here's the golden rules, and we'll get to that. Engagement parties are fake. Dudes don't go. Dudes do not go to baby showers. If you have a wife or a significant other and they say, I need you to go to a baby shower, you call bullshit on that. That's for women to talk about being pregnant with each other. Dudes don't need to be around that. And number 3, baby reveals are absolutely ridiculous. Everybody's glad you're having a baby. Nobody gives a shit what you're having except maybe your parents.
That's true.
My rant's over.
Spitting hot fire. Speaking of hot fire, I don't know what saucy nugs are, but that is what is being drove by Shane Van Gisbergen. That is a pick by Travi, as well as the Busch Light Peach with Ross Chastain. Obviously going with the number 5 and Kyle Larson. The number 13 will be the Dinger and this badass looking 45 from Tyler Reddick. That's his picks. Joe, you went with Kyle Larson. Also went with Chase Elliott, AJ Allmendinger, Shane Van Gisbergen, and then you decided to go with Joey Logano. What was behind your picks?
I don't know. It's, you're hot, you're hot.
Okay, so you're keeping in the flames is what you're saying.
Right. I mean, I feel like one of our drivers every week is irrelevant. I just figured I'd pick a guy that got a win last week as being irrelevant.
Yeah, and if you could ever back into a win, that would be what Joey Logano did.
Pick Larson, Elliott, the Dinger, and SVG on a road course, you got to give one away.
Gotcha. John kind of split the difference with all of us there. He's going with Shane Van Gisbergen, Ty Gibbs, Tyler Reddick, AJ Allmendinger, and Christopher Bell. So he kind of cherry-picked off of all of us. I went, and I actually put a bet down. And I did this last time, and I told you guys, I think Kyle Busch has a chance to get a win. Why? Because of chaos. If there is a chance that it could be chaotic, somebody has to win the race. I'm not going on numbers. I'm not going on anything else. Somehow, some way, I went and thought about going to RCR and burning sage around the facility. I'm just doing what I can to manifest, hopefully, a win for Kyle Busch. Would it not be crazy, Joe, after we talk about all the things of bad luck, then out of nowhere he goes to a track and just finds a way to get to victory lane?
I hope it happens.
I'm trying to manifest it. I then went with Shane. I went with C-Bell, also Martin Truex, and with Ty Gibbs. I obviously went Toyota heavy on the bottom, and I'm sure that I will still maintain my spot in last place. Joe, you got anything for closing here on this week's weekly show?
No, I hope you get a win. I hope Chicago Street Course is exciting this weekend. I hope we get entertained like we were last year. I'll be on iRacing here shortly. Be on the TikToks. Hopefully, I'm not going to ask you if you're allowed because I know that that's not a question that you have to ask. If you're over 30, you understand that you pick a partner that understands that you need your time to yourself and she needs her time and she's not going to get upset with you when you were trying to relax and compete on iRacing. So what I will say, Ryan, is I will be on iRacing. Hopefully I see you in a little bit. I'm going to get some wins and hopefully we have a good weekend in NASCAR.
Yep. I just got done playing basketball, so I feel like I'm going to pass out here in a few minutes if I don't get something to eat. So I will probably jump on the iRacing as well and probably be accused of getting loose, even though I got drove into twice. So that's always fun. But, yeah, hopefully Chicago's fun. Hopefully everybody gets to go to the concerts they want to go to. And more importantly, hopefully we got a great race. But I'm glad everybody joined in. Thank you guys for the comments. We really, really appreciate that, you guys staying in with us. We'll have a post-race show a little bit later. The race starts at 5, so it'll be a little bit later than we normally do, but hopefully it's a treat. So
I may be doing that post-race show with Chicago in the background from a nice beach.
There you go. So for Joe Spillman, who doesn't care about anything, for Ryan Peters, who's just begging for a Kyle Busch victory, hell, just a top 5 that he doesn't get wrecked out of.
And for Travis Butt, who is at a fake-ass engagement party.
And for Sits Down 20 P's Travis Butt, this is Stuck in the Catch Fence. We'll catch